Hi folks, Cory here. I wanted to basically share my thoughts on a lot of the popular videos that are going around now, especially regarding tarot reading and tarot readers. There are a lot of videos being made about red flags, and personally, I think that a lot of those videos are kind of missing the mark as far as what a real red flag is and what really doesn't constitute as a red flag. So this is going to be a two-part video. Now, this first part that you're watching now are 5 things that I'm seeing commonly added to these red flag lists that are not actually red flags, but are more of reading preferences. So let's just jump into it, okay? The first thing that is not a red flag with a tarot reader is that they don't cleanse their deck fully between clients or between readings. I'm not really sure where this came from. I feel like this is sort of one of those mythos, like along the lines of, hey, you have to be gifted your first tarot deck. Not true. Or that you have to, in order to energetically protect your cards, you have to wrap them in silk and keep them in a wooden box. Also not necessarily true. These are preferences. Now, if you have a reading style that fits a specific tradition and cleansing your deck, you have a specific methodology that is a part of your tradition that you do in between each client, I get that. Totally. But I feel like this is a preference. Decks and even crystals, there's this obsession, especially on social media, about energetically cleansing items that don't really need to be cleansed that often. And really, it just depends. Number one, what does your time look like? Are you at a fair? Are you doing a corporate reading event? Are you at a convention doing readings? Are you at a psychic fair at a local store? These can all kind of impact the amount of time that you have between clients and readings and make doing a full energetic cleansing really difficult. And some people just don't necessarily feel like their readings are impeded if they don't cleanse their deck between each client. And I think that's just a preference. That's fine. You know, as long as their reading hits home and is accurate, that's the important thing. Number 2, how they shuffle their cards. Oh my gosh. There are some people that have to do the overhand shuffle, or choose to do it because they don't want to damage the edging of their cards. And then there are some folks that like riffle shuffling. I don't think riffle shuffling is bad, you guys. There are situations where I do riffle shuffles. It really, for me, depends on the thickness of the card stock. Also, I have some decks that tend to be on the larger side. Case in point, this guy right here, and it makes riffle shuffling really, really difficult, especially for someone like me. I have very small hands, tiny fingers, and riffle shuffling a deck. I mean, look at that. It is the size of my hand. I can't do it that way. My standard size tarot decks, yeah, especially the mass market ones, I will riffle shuffle them. Damage to the cards and scuff marks, for me, is a-okay. It's a sign that I've used that deck a lot, that we've got a great relationship. I think normal wear and tear on a deck is absolutely okay and doesn't diminish the type of readings that you're getting from the cards. Other people might have different preferences, but this does not constitute a red flag. It just doesn't. It's another reading preference as opposed to something that a professional tarot reader should never do, right? Number 3, letting clients touch the cards. This is also another very, very polarizing topic, right? And again, it comes down to preference. I used to, back in the day when I did do in-person readings quite a bit, long before the days of COVID, right? I would often shuffle the cards and let my clients cut. There are other readers who like their clients specifically to shuffle the deck. Okay? There are other practitioners that are like, sorry, you can't touch the cards. And I think all are valid. It really is just a preference. Having clients touch cards doesn't damage the cards. You know, there's a lot of theories about whether or not an energetic fingerprint left behind on the cards can somehow impede your reading for the next client. Honestly, I think it really just depends on the reader's style of reading and how they interact with their deck, and really kind of what is best for that deck. Again, I think it boils down to personal preference. Number 4, not memorizing card meanings and only reading intuitively based on the images of this particular deck. This is another one that's very polarizing. And I used to be in the camp of you have to memorize traditional meanings, especially if you're working with a deck that has an established system like Rider-Waite-Smith based decks, okay? Or Thoth decks, right? You know, you need to study original meanings and all of the original symbolism. I mean, again, it's all in the style of the reader. And if someone is a very intuitive reader, they get intuitive downloads, and they're really only using the cards as an aid to psychic readings. Maybe they're more clairaudient, maybe they are more clairvoyant, the pictures assist them with getting the downloads, right? I think it's all about style and preference. And I don't necessarily believe anymore that sticking to, you know, the study of a rigid system is the end all be all. I do think it's still very important, especially for my style of reading. I've studied traditional meanings and systems and tarot decks that I read with for a very long time. I like to do that. My Virgo brain enjoys it. But I'm not going to knock a reader who has really solid intuitive reading skills and is just using the tarot as an aid. Like, their reading style is just as valid as mine, okay? They put in just as much work into developing those skill sets that I do. We just read differently, and that is okay. It's not necessarily a big old red flag, okay? Go with the reader whose style matches what you're interested in, right? And then the last one, not using tarot spreads. I have no idea why this made it on so many lists of like tarot red flags. Spreads are nice, especially if you have something very specific that you're trying to wrangle out, right? But not everybody wants to use a big old Celtic cross spread. Not everybody actually needs a spread. Sometimes you just want to draw a couple cards and see what's going on. Get like a general picture, a snapshot of the moment. And if you're someone that doesn't use spreads, that's okay. I love making spreads. I love creating spreads. I read with spreads. This is kind of like a thing of mine, but that's because it's something that lights me up. And it helps me focus, again, the Virgo brain, analytics, right? It helps me focus on the overall picture and the outcome of what's happening with the cards in their relationship to each other and the message that I'm trying to deliver to the client. If that's not your bag, that's cool. It is not a red flag if someone does not want to use a spread. It's just not, okay? So bottom line, use your best judgment, okay? Find a reader who you vibe with, you know, whose reading style you really enjoy, and get a reading from them. There's more than enough room in this community for every type of tarot reader, okay? And that was part 1. Part 2 will be actual red flags. Have a great day, guys.